With the temperatures increasing, parents need to be careful on how long their children are outside. When temperatures rise, it raises the risk of heat-related illnesses. Knowing the signs of heat illness like heat stroke and heat exhaustion is so important. Joining me this morning to discuss heat exhaustion and heat stroke in kids is our 9 News health expert, Dr. Payal Kohli. Thank you for coming in.
Good morning. It's going to be hot.
Yes, it's top of mind right now. We're talking upper 90s, maybe triple digits heading into the weekend. So first, why are kids more susceptible to heat-related illnesses?
Yeah, it's really interesting. The way that they regulate their body temperature is very different from adults. In fact, a child's body can heat up 3 to 5 times faster than an adult's body because they make more heat and then they don't sweat as much. So sweating is kind of like opening up your vents. It gives off the heat and they're not able to do that. Plus, they don't have a lot of awareness when they're sort of getting behind or starting to feel ill. So with kids, Corey, they really rely on adults to sort of tell them, monitor them, and kind of know when they're having a heat-related problem.
How do you know if something is up, like if they are like in those early stages of heat stroke or heat illness?
So they're very high risk for having heat-related illness, and it's really important to monitor very subtle signs because it's not going to be as obvious as it is in adults who can actually verbalize a lot of their complaints. So one of the earliest signs is a headache, and as you know, a lot of kids don't even recognize that they have a headache, much less tell an adult that they do. You want to touch their skin, and interestingly enough, it feels sort of cool and clammy. So it's not necessarily hot as it is with heat stroke. With heat exhaustion, it's more cool and clammy. If they say their tummy hurts, so nausea and vomiting is one of the earlier signs of heat-related illness, or if they say they're tired, fatigue is another sign of heat-related illness. You want to monitor how much time they've spent outside, and it can be as little as 10 to 15 minutes, depending on what they're doing, when they can start becoming susceptible.
So what do you do if you notice some of those signs?
Yep, so the first thing you got to do is put them in some kind of air conditioning or somewhere cool, and then, you know, my mom did this for me when I had a very high fever once. You get these cold compresses and actually put them on their forehead, put them on their neck, areas that allow that evaporative cooling so that you can cool them down quickly. If you don't have compresses, you can just spray water on their skin. And you want to be sure to cool them from the inside too. So you want to give them cold water or a cold electrolyte solution. Do not give them soda. Do not give them sugary drinks because that actually consumes more water and makes it worse.
Should you put them in a cold shower or is that too much?
Nope, that's a great idea. So in the early parts of it where it's kind of heat exhaustion, putting them in a cool bath, a cool shower, that's a great way to help with that evaporative cooling. Once they progress a little farther and they're having heat-related stroke, if they're having, you know, trouble with consciousness, if they're not communicating, they're confused, then you want to call 911 because that's a life-threatening emergency. You don't want them to drink anything because they could actually choke or aspirate on it. And at that point, you want to try to cool them, but you want to do it more with spritzing.
Now, you kind of brought this up about, you know, those sports drinks, and they're like, oh, we need electrolytes, you got to get the salt, but the sugar content can be ridiculous in some of these. So where's the balance?
Yeah, so do not give sugar when it's hot out. And because number one, sugar consumes water. So to process all that sugar. Number two, it can actually make you pee more. So you actually end up losing more water. And kids, as you know, are not very good about hydration, about knowing when they're thirsty. So you need to really give them either a homemade electrolyte solution, because the sugary sports drinks I'm not a huge fan of, or give them water. But if they've spent enough time outside with the sweating, you really do want to try to replace some of those electrolytes. So like a homemade lemonade, I think would be a really nice drink to give kids.
You know, one thing that you mentioned a while ago is when kids are in water a lot and swimming a lot, you think, I guess you don't think about them being dehydrated, but that can also dehydrate them as well.
Not only that, it can mask the signs of feeling hot. So a child might not even complain because they're actually not feeling as hot. So, you know, when you talk about activities to do with kids, a lot of people say take them to the pool or, you know, have them play in the backyard with the sprinklers. Not a good idea because it actually does mask the signs of heat-related illness, and it can cause more dehydration because they're still running around. And you can imagine the types of activities: bike riding, soccer, running in the backyard through the sprinklers. All of these consume a lot of water.
Right.
But then if you're cool, you don't quite realize that you're falling behind. So I actually encourage parents to spend time with kids indoors when it's as hot as it is. Avoid 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Chris will tell you when it's the hottest today, but that's usually sort of the peak hours. And then really sort of, again, make sure that they've got some kind of water bottle or something with a character on it or something that encourages them to drink.
Lastly, for older adults, because that's another group we should talk about when it comes to the heat.
Yeah, so they don't regulate their body temperature as well. And a lot of our older adults are on medications like diuretics that can actually cause dehydration. So as a cardiologist, sometimes I'll even tell my patients to adjust their medicine doses or hold doses of certain medicines. Now, you don't want to do this without talking to your doctor first. But if you are taking a medicine like a diuretic, or you're being treated for high blood pressure, or you're on a medicine called a beta blocker, these are all medicines that can mask the signs of heat-related illness. You may want to call your doctor and see if they recommend adjusting doses for the next couple of days.
Great advice, Dr. Coley. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.